Hey guys, tonight we slip into the flickering torchlight of an ancient Egyptian courtroom, where the air smells of baked clay and nervous sweat. Picture yourself standing on a reed mat, the Nile's distant hum mixing with the murmurs of scribes scratching papyrus. Judges in white kilts eye you warily, their wigs gleaming with beeswax. You're here to witness justice, Egyptian style, peculiar punishments that make modern traffic fines look positively dull. Spoiler alert, you probably won't survive the bureaucracy of their legal system, with its endless scrolls and snooty officials. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Oh, and drop a comment with your location and local time. It's always cool to know where you're drifting off from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. As you step into the courtroom, the warm stone floor beneath your sandals, you can't help but feel like you've entered a scene from a pharaoh's fever dream. The room is a sensory overload. Dust motes dance in the slanted sunlight, the faint scent of myrrh lingers from a nearby brazier, and a stray cat lounges on a ledge, eyeing you as if you owe it a fish. The crowd, a mix of merchants in crisp linen, farmers with sun-cracked hands, and kids sneaking dates from their parents' baskets, is here for the spectacle of justice. But they're not just spectators. They're part of the narrative, adding to the energy of the scene. The courts, often set in temple forecourts or mud-brick council halls, were run by viziers or nomarchs. Think regional governors with a flair for dramatic rulings. They handled everything from petty theft to high treason, and their verdicts were as much about restoring cosmic balance as settling disputes. You can't miss the walls carved with images of Ma'at, the goddess of truth, her ostrich feather symbol glaring down like a divine polygraph test. Every trial had to uphold her principles or the whole society might spiral into chaos. At least that's what the priests kept preaching. Historians still argue whether Ma'at's feather was a physical prop in court or just a poetic idea. Still, its presence feels heavy, like the judges are weighing your soul alongside the evidence. Speaking of judges, they're flanked by scribes, the unsung heroes of this legal circus. These guys are hunched over papyrus, their reed pens scratching furiously, recording every word in black ink that smudges in the humid air. You can imagine them muttering, "No, you said stolen barley, not borrowed barley. Get it together." Their meticulous notes were Egypt's version of a court transcript, and losing a scroll was probably a crime in itself. Here's a quirky tidbit to chew on. Some courts relied on oracles to break a deadlock. Picture a priest hauling in a gilded statue of Ammonius, asking it yes or no questions, and claiming the god's answer based on how the statue wobbled. Likely because someone accidentally bumped it. You're standing there, accused of sneaking an extra onion from the market, and your fate depends on a statue's mood swings. You stifle a laugh, but the crowd's deadly serious, whispering about divine intervention. It's no wonder these trials were the town's hottest ticket. Half the village is here, gossiping and passing around clay cups of watered-down beer. As you settle into the scene, you spot the accused, a scrawny guy with the look of someone who's just realized he picked the wrong day to bend the rules. He's charged with shortchanging a sandal maker, and the tension suggests he's not walking away with a slap on the wrist. The head judge leans forward, his voice smooth and deliberate, like he's narrating a bedtime story for the gods. Punishments here aren't just practical. They're performance art designed to teach a lesson, amuse the crowd, and keep Ma'at's feather from tipping. You notice the accused fidgeting, his eyes darting to the scribes, who are already scribbling what might be his doom. The courtroom's energy shifts. Everyone's leaning in, waiting for the verdict. You can almost taste the anticipation, like the moment before a storm breaks over the Nile. The judge's staff taps the floor, a soft thud that silences the room. You're struck by how formal it all feels. Yet there's an undercurrent of absurdity. These punishments, you'll soon learn, range from public shaming to downright bizarre tasks, like carrying a heavy stone tablet inscribed with your crime for a week. You glance at the cat again, wondering if it's the only one here who's truly above the law. The scribes pause, their pens hovering, as the judge begins to speak. You lean closer, the torchlight casting long shadows, ready to see what peculiar fate awaits. You're still standing in that ancient Egyptian courtroom, the air thick with the scent of dust and anticipation, as the scribes take center stage. Their reed pens scratch across papyrus like a chorus of restless crickets, capturing every word of the trial you're witnessing. The accused sandal swindler from before is sweating buckets, his fate being sealed in those curling sheets. You can't help but marvel at the scribes, Egypt's original bureaucrats, turning chaos into order one hieroglyph at a time. Their job isn't just to jot down notes. They're crafting the official record of justice, including the peculiar punishments that make these courts legendary. You're about to see how their meticulous work shapes verdicts that are equal parts fair and downright odd. The head scribe, a wiry man with ink-stained fingers, squints at his papyrus as if it's personally offended him. He's writing down the judge's ruling, and you catch a glimpse of the text, crisp symbols detailing the crime and its penalty. Mainstream history confirms that Egyptian scribes were the backbone of the legal system, trained from childhood to master hieroglyphs and hieratic script. They worked in temples, palaces, and courts, ensuring no detail was lost, whether it was a stolen goose or a noble's tax dodge. Their records were so vital that some were stored in archives for centuries, like the ancient equivalent of a cloud backup, minus the subscription fee. You lean closer, trying to decipher the scribe's latest entry. The accused is sentenced to carry a clay tablet inscribed with his crime through the village for 3 days. It's not just humiliation. It's a walking billboard of shame. You chuckle at the thought of him trudging past the market, kids pointing and giggling. But here's a quirky tidbit. Some scribes added flair to their records, slipping in sarcastic asides about the accused. One surviving papyrus from the New Kingdom describes a thief as a man who loves bread more than honor. You can almost see the scribe smirking as he wrote it, his pen flicking with a touch of sass. Historians still argue whether these jabs were meant to entertain the gods or keep the scribes awake during long trials. The crowd around you rustles, craning to hear the judge confirm the verdict. You notice the scribes aren't just recording words, they're sketching quick diagrams of the punishment, like a comic strip for the pharaoh's archives. One drawing depicts a stick figure carrying a tablet, accompanied by exaggerated sweat drops for effect. It's oddly endearing, like they're saying, "Yeah, this guy's in for it." You imagine the scribes passing these scrolls around at the end of the day, swapping stories over barley beer about the weirdest punishments they've seen. Maybe one scribe's got a tale about a guy sentenced to sing an apology hymn to Ra in the town square off-key, naturally. As the head scribe rolls up his papyrus, you realize how much power he holds. A sloppy record could botch a verdict or, worse, anger the gods. You spot a younger scribe, barely out of his teens, nervously sharpening his reed pen with a flint knife. He's probably terrified of smudging the ink, especially since mistakes could mean a demotion to copying grain inventories. You give him a mental high five for surviving the pressure. The courtroom's rhythm feels hypnotic now. The soft clink of the judge's staff, the scribe's steady scratching, the crowd's low hum. It's like an ASMR session designed to lull you into a trance, but you're too curious to drift off yet. The verdict's papyrus is handed to a runner, who dashes off to file it in some dusty archive. You wonder what other punishments are tucked away in those scrolls. Maybe a merchant forced to donate his best cow to the temple, or a gossip ordered to sweep the courthouse steps for a week. The scribe's work ensures these moments aren't lost, preserving Egypt's quirky sense of justice for eternity. You glance at the accused again, now slinking out with his head down, probably dreading his tablet-toting debut. You can't help but feel a twinge of sympathy, but also a grin. Justice here is nothing if not memorable. The scribes start packing up, their baskets overflowing with papyrus rolls and spare pens. You catch a whiff of the ink, a mix of soot and gum that smells oddly comforting, like an old library. The head scribe mutters something to his assistant, probably complaining about the heat or the cat that keeps stealing his lunch. You're starting to love these guys. They're the unsung comedians of the courtroom, turning dry verdicts into stories that echo through time. As the trial wraps, you feel the weight of Ma'at's feather from that first courtroom scene, a reminder that balance is everything here. The scribes have done their part, and you're ready to see what's next in this peculiar parade of justice. You're still in that ancient Egyptian courtroom, the scribes scratching pens now a faint echo as the focus shifts skyward, or rather Godward. The air feels heavier, charged with the invisible presence of deities who, in Egypt, have their fingers in every pie, especially justice. You're standing among the crowd, the reed mats underfoot slightly damp from spilled beer, and you notice everyone's eyes darting to the carved statues lining the walls. These aren't just decor. They're the gods, and they're calling the shots on the peculiar punishments about to unfold. You're here to see how divine influence turns verdicts into something straight out of a cosmic sitcom. The judge, his linen kilt crisp despite the heat, invokes Ammonius RA before announcing the following case. A merchant caught watering down his wine. The crowd murmurs, but it's the gods they're whispering about, not the wine. Mainstream history tells us that Egyptian courts leaned heavily on divine guidance, with gods such as Ammonius, Osiris, and Ma'at shaping legal outcomes. Priests often doubled as advisors, claiming to channel divine will, which gave verdicts an untouchable aura. You can feel it now, the way the room seems to hold its breath as if Ammonius RA himself might pop in to double-check the paperwork. You spot a small shrine in the corner, draped with lotus flowers and flickering with oil lamps. It's dedicated to Thoth, the ibis-headed god of wisdom and writing, who's the patron saint of those scribes you saw earlier. The judge offers a quick prayer, asking Thoth to guide the verdict, and you can't help but smirk. Imagine praying for divine Wi-Fi to get through a Zoom trial. But here's a quirky tidbit. Some trials involved consulting the gods via divine lots, little clay tokens tossed like sacred dice. A surviving record from Deir el-Medina mentions a thief sentenced to repay double his loot after the lots spoke for Osiris. You picture the priests rigging the toss, winking at each other while the crowd gasps in awe. The merchant's case takes a weird turn. The judge declares that to appease Ma'at, the man must offer a jug of his finest wine to the temple of Hathor and then spend a day chanting her praises in public. You stifle a laugh. Imagine this guy, red-faced, singing off-key hymns while passers-by toss figs at him. The punishment's not just about shame. It's about balancing the cosmic scales, making sure Hathor's not cranky about the watered-down wine fiasco. Historians still argue whether these divine punishments were genuinely spiritual or just a way to flex temple power. But you can see the crowd eating it up, nodding like they've got a direct line to the gods group chat. You shift your weight, the reed mat squishing slightly, and notice a woman in the crowd clutching a tiny amulet of Ma'at. She's whispering prayers, probably hoping her court date goes better than the merchant's. The courtroom's vibe is a mix of reverence and theater, with the gods as both audience and directors. You imagine Osiris lounging in the underworld, chuckling at the idea of a wine cellar turned temple crooner. The judge's voice softens, almost hypnotic, as he explains how Hathor's favor will restore harmony. It's like he's lulling the room to sleep, and you feel your eyelids droop, caught in the cadence of his words. But then a priest steps forward, his shaved head gleaming, carrying a small bronze scale. He places a feather, Ma'at's symbol, on one side and a clay weight on the other, and the room goes silent. It's a ritual to confirm the verdict's fairness, and the slow tilt of the scale transfixes you, and the slow tilt of the scale transfixes you. The feather holds steady, and the crowd exhales. You're starting to get why these divine rituals matter. They're the glue holding this society together, turning quirky punishments into acts of faith. You glance at the merchant, now bowing to the shrine, his face a mix of relief and dread. He's off the hook, but Hathor's got him on a leash. The statues seem to watch you now, their painted eyes unnervingly lifelike. You wonder what other divine punishments are coming. Maybe a thief ordered to carve a hymn into a temple wall, or a liar forced to wear a wooden tongue pendant as a warning. The gods' influence makes every verdict feel larger than life, like you're caught in a story that's half courtroom drama, half divine prank. You lean against a pillar, the cool stone grounding you, and let the scene sink in. The scribes are back at it, scratching away, preserving this godly spectacle for posterity. You're ready for whatever peculiar twist the gods have in store next. You're still in the ancient Egyptian courtroom, but now the scene shifts, and you feel the pull of the Nile, its muddy scent wafting through an open archway. The courtroom's buzz fades as you follow the crowd outside, where the river glints under the midday sun, papyrus reeds swaying like lazy sentinels. Today's trial is moving to the water's edge, where peculiar punishments tied to the Nile itself are about to play out. You're here to see how Egypt's lifeblood doubles as a stage for justice, turning crimes into river-soaked spectacles that are as quirky as they are unforgettable. You stand on the bank, the damp earth cool under your sandals, watching a new defendant, a fisherman accused of poaching from a sacred lake. The crowd gathered along the shore, some perched on driftwood, others fanning themselves with palm fronds. Mainstream history tells us that the Nile was central to Egyptian law, not just for trade or farming but also as a tool for punishment. Crimes against sacred waters, like fishing in temple-owned lakes, were serious business, often judged under the watchful eye of Sobek, the crocodile god. You glance at the water, half expecting a croc to wink at you, but it's just ripples and the occasional frog. The judge, now sporting a blue sash that screams, "I'm important," announces the penalty. The fisherman must row a reed boat across the Nile, trailing a net filled with stones marked with his crime. You snicker, imagine the guy huffing and puffing, his boat wobbling while the whole village watches. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some Nile punishments involved symbolic offerings to Hapi, the river god. A papyrus from the Middle Kingdom describes a thief forced to toss clay fish figurines into the river while reciting apologies to Hapi. You picture the fisherman muttering, "Sorry, Hapi, won't steal your fish again," as his arms ache from rowing. Historians still debate whether these rituals were intended for divine appeasement or merely a means to make criminals sweat. Literally. You notice the crowds loving this, tossing pebbles into the shallows like they're at a festival. The fisherman's boat is a flimsy thing, woven from papyrus stalks, and you're betting it's taking on water. The stones in his net are painted with hieroglyphs spelling out thief, a floating billboard of his shame. You can't help but admire the creativity. Egyptians didn't just punish, they put on a show. The judge's voice carries over the water, calm and rhythmic, explaining how the Nile demands respect. It's almost soothing, like he's narrating a nature documentary, and you feel your shoulders relax, caught in the river's gentle sway. But then the mood shifts. A priest of Sobek steps forward, his crocodile tooth necklace glinting. He tosses lotus petals into the water, chanting a blessing to ensure the punishment pleases the gods. You're struck by the theater of it all. The Nile isn't just a backdrop. It's a character in this drama. You imagine other river punishments. Maybe a tax dodger forced to clean algae from temple docks, or a gossip ordered to ferry priests across the river for a week. The fisherman's halfway across now, his face red, the net dragging like an anchor. You wince, remembering that clay tablet punishment from the courtroom. Egyptians sure love making you carry your mistakes. The sun's high, baking the crowd, but no one's leaving. You spot a kid sketching the scene in the mud with a stick, capturing the boat's wobbly path. It's a reminder of how these punishments double as public lessons. Steal from the Nile, and you'll be rowing your regrets for all to see. You lean against a palm tree, its shade small mercy, and let the scene unfold. The fisherman's almost at the far bank, where a scribe waits to record his success or failure. You're starting to get why the Nile's so revered. It's not just water. It's justice, life, and a bit of divine comedy rolled into one. As the fisherman nears the shore, the crowd cheers, though you're not sure if it's for him or the spectacle. The judge nods, satisfied, and the priest tosses more petals, their scent mingling with the river's earthy tang. You feel the rhythm of the moment, the lapping water, the priest's low chant, the crowd's soft chatter, like a lullaby pulling you deeper into Egypt's world. The fisherman's punishment is over, but you're hooked, wondering what other Nile-born penalties are waiting. You glance at the river one last time, its surface calm but hiding 1,000 stories, ready for the next act in this peculiar parade. You're back on the Nile's bank, but the fisherman's soggy spectacle has wrapped, and the crowd's drifting toward the village square, where a new kind of punishment is brewing. The air hums with gossip, the scent of roasted barley and sun-warmed linen mingling as you follow the throng. You're here to witness social shame in action, Egypt's knack for turning guilt into public performance. The courtroom's stone walls are a memory now. This is justice out in the open, where peculiar punishments hit you where it hurts, your pride. You brace yourself for a show that's as cringeworthy as it is oddly soothing. The square's alive with activity. Vendors hawk figs, kids chase a stray goose, and a musician plucks a lute, its notes floating like a lazy breeze. At the center, a woman stands, accused of spreading false rumors about a priest's grain stash. She's holding a wooden sign, its hieroglyphs spelling out her crime in bold red paint. The crowd's pointing, some laughing, others shaking their heads. Mainstream history tells us public shaming was a go-to in ancient Egypt, especially for nonviolent crimes like slander or cheating at trade. Unlike physical penalties, these punishments aim to dent your social standing, making you the talk of the town for all the wrong reasons. You sidle closer, the dust tickling your nose, and read the sign. I lied about sacred grain. The woman's cheeks are flushed, but she's holding her head high, probably hoping to outlast the stares. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some shaming punishments required the guilty to wear bizarre accessories, like a necklace of dried fish for market fraud. A papyrus from the Ramesside period mentions a baker who had to parade with moldy bread strung around his neck after shortchanging customers. You chuckle, imagining the smell trailing him like a bad cologne. Historians still argue whether these penalties were meant to reform the offender or just entertain the masses. But you can see the crowds hooked, whispering like they're at a live podcast taping. The judge, now perched on a wooden platform, explains the verdict in that same ASMR-worthy tone, his voice blending with the lute's hum. The woman must stand in the square for 3 days, holding her sign from dawn to dusk, and apologize to anyone who passes. You wince. 3 days of, "I'm sorry" sounds exhausting, like being stuck in a customer service loop. But there's genius in it. The punishment's not just about her shame. It's about forcing her to face the community she wronged. You notice a few neighbors offering her water, a small kindness that softens the scene like Egypt's, reminding you it's not all tough love. You lean against a mud brick wall, its surface warm from the sun, and watch the woman start her apologies. Her voice is steady, but you catch a tremor when a group of teens snickers. You're tempted to toss them a glare. After all, who hasn't spread a rumor or two? The square's energy is a mix of judgment and curiosity, with vendors using the drama to sell more dates. You imagine other shaming punishments. Maybe a tax evader forced to sweep the square while wearing a hat shaped like a tax scroll, or a loudmouth ordered to carry a bell that rings with every step. Egypt's justice is nothing if not theatrical. The lute player shifts to a slower tune, and you feel your eyelids droop, the scene's rhythm pulling you into a dreamy haze. The woman's sign sways slightly as she shifts her weight, and you wonder how she'll hold up. The crowd's starting to thin, some heading home to their mud brick houses, others lingering for the gossip. You spot a scribe from the courtroom, scribbling notes on a scrap of papyrus, probably adding this to the archive with a sarcastic flourish. You grin, remembering that sassy scribe who called a thief bread-obsessed. These records are Egypt's time capsules, preserving every awkward moment. As the sun dips, casting long shadows across the square. The woman's voice grows softer, her apologies blending with the evening breeze. You're struck by how personal this punishment feels. Unlike the fisherman's Nile stunt, this one's all about her place in the village. The judge steps down, his sash fluttering, and nods to a priest, who mutters a prayer to Ma'at. It's a reminder of that courtroom feather, always looming, ensuring balance. You take a deep breath, the air now cooler, and let the square's fading bustle wash over you. The woman's still there, her sign a silent confession, and you're ready for whatever peculiar punishment comes next. You've left the village square behind, the woman's signboard confession fading into the dusk, and now you're trudging along a dusty path toward a sprawling construction site. The air smells of baked earth and sweat, and the rhythmic clink of chisels on stone fills your ears. You're here to join convicts serving peculiar labor penalties, their punishments as much about sweat as shame. The Nile's distant shimmer is a faint memory. This is Egypt's justice at its grittiest, where crimes are paid off with calluses and bizarre tasks. You roll your shoulders, ready to see what odd work the courts have cooked up. You reach the site, a half-built temple dedicated to Ammonius, its limestone blocks gleaming in the sun. Among the workers is a man, the latest convict, heaving a water jug to his crew. He's been sentenced for dodging his village's grain tax, and now he's hauling water for the masons, 3 months of it. Mainstream history tells us labor penalties were common in ancient Egypt, especially for tax evasion or minor theft. Instead of jails, convicts were often sent to public works, quarries, temples, or canals, where their toil served the state and the gods. You watch the man stumble, water sloshing, and wince. This is no desk job. The overseer, a burly guy with a reed whip he rarely uses, barks orders, his voice softened by the desert wind. The convict's punishment has a twist. Every jug he carries is etched with tax thief in hieroglyphs, a mobile reminder of his crime. You chuckle. Egyptians love labeling their guilty, don't they? Remember that signboard from the square? It's the same vibe, just sweatier. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some labor sentences included bizarre side tasks, like weaving baskets for temple offerings during breaks. A record from the New Kingdom mentions a thief forced to carve wooden pegs for a noble's chariot while quarrying stone. You imagine the guy whittling away, muttering, "I just stole one duck. Come on." Historians still debate whether these extra tasks were intended for humiliation or to keep idle hands busy. You step closer, the dust coating your sandals, and notice the convict's crew isn't all convicts. Some are paid workers, tossing him half-hearted jabs about his etched jug. The camaraderie is surprising, as if they've all been through this grind together. You spot another convict, a woman, mixing mud for bricks. Her crime, gossiping about a priest, has earned her a month of this. Her bricks are stamped with Ma'at's feather, a nod to restoring balance. You're starting to see the pattern. Every punishment, even the sweaty ones, ties back to that courtroom feather, keeping the gods happy and society humming. The temple's half-built columns loom overhead, their shadows stretching like fingers across the sand. You imagine the convict's days. Up at dawn, hauling water, dodging the overseer's glare, maybe sneaking a nap behind a block. The work's grueling, but there's a rhythm to it, the clink of tools and low chatter blending into a desert lullaby. You feel your eyelids droop, caught in the scene's hypnotic pulse. The overseer hands the convict a new jug, this one heavier, and you stifle a laugh. Bet he's regretting that grain tax now. It's like Egypt saying, "Pay your dues, or you'll be the water boy for Ammonius fan club." You wander toward a pile of limestone chips, the air sharp with their mineral tang. A scribe's here, of course, scribbling on papyrus, tracking the convict's progress. You grin, picturing him adding a snarky note like that bread-obsessed jab from the courtroom. Maybe he's writing, "Tax thief, terrible at balancing jugs." The scribe's presence grounds the scene, tying it to those courtroom rituals and divine scales. You wonder what other labor penalties are out there, Maybe a shopkeeper mixing plaster for pyramids or a loudmouth digging irrigation ditches. Each task feels like a story, etched into Egypt's landscape as surely as the hieroglyphs. The sun's dipping, painting the temple gold, and the workers pause, wiping sweat with linen scraps. You lean against a block, its surface warm, and let the moment sink in. The convict's still hauling, his jug glinting with hieroglyphs, a walking lesson in justice. The crew's chatter fades, replaced by the wind's soft hum, and you feel the weight of Egypt's system. Fair, quirky, and relentless. You're hooked, ready for the subsequent peculiar punishment. But for now, you're content to watch the temple rise. One jug, one brick, one story at a time. You're leaving the dusty temple site behind, the clink of chisels fading as you head back toward the heart of the city, where the pharaoh's palace, a colossal sandstone giant, looms in all its grandeur. The air's thick with the scent of blooming lotus and the faint tang of incense drifting from nearby temples. You're here to witness royal decrees, the kind of peculiar punishments only a pharaoh can dream up. The Nile's hum is a distant whisper now. This is justice at its most regal, where one word from the throne can turn a criminal's life into a bizarre performance. You adjust your imaginary kilt, feeling the weight of royal eyes on you. You step into a grand hall, its columns painted with scenes of gods and conquests, the floor polished to a mirror sheen. At the far end, the pharaoh, let's call him Ramesses, because why not, sits on a golden throne, his double crown gleaming. He's presiding over a case about a noble who borrowed a royal barge without asking. The crowd, a mix of courtiers and nervous officials, whispers behind their hands. The pharaohs were not just kings, but the ultimate judges in ancient Egypt. Their decrees blended divine will with practical governance. From the old kingdom to the new, they settled disputes that trickled up from local courts, often with punishments that screamed, "Don't mess with the God King." The pharaoh's voice, smooth as the Nile at dawn, cuts through the hall. The noble's penalty: he must donate 10 cows to the Temple of Ptah, then spend a week polishing the palace's sacred obelisk by hand. You snicker, picturing the snooty noble, sleeves rolled up, scrubbing stone while courtiers snigger. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some royal decrees included symbolic tasks tied to the crime. A papyrus from the 19th dynasty describes a scribe who forged a tax record and was ordered to carve a hymn to Ma'at on a temple wall, using a dull chisel. You imagine him cursing under his breath, his masterpiece taking twice as long. Historians continue to debate whether these punishments were intended to maintain divine balance or to demonstrate the pharaoh's power and authority. You shift closer, the cool floor soothing your feet, and notice the noble's face. Pale, like he's just realized cows aren't cheap. The pharaoh's advisors, draped in leopard skins, nod approvingly, their expressions saying, "Nice one, boss." The punishment's not just about the cows or the polishing. It's a public reminder that even nobles aren't above the law. You remember that fisherman rowing his shame across the Nile. Same principle, fancier setting. The hall's vibe is electric yet oddly calming. The pharaoh's voice weaving a spell that makes you want to curl up on a reed mat and nap. A scribe, naturally, is perched nearby, his papyrus already filling with the decree's details. You grin, betting he's slipping in a jab, maybe calling the noble barge borrower extraordinaire. The scribe's reed pen moves like it's got a mind of its own, preserving this moment for Egypt's archives. You wonder what other royal punishments have passed through this hall. Maybe a governor forced to plant a grove of sycamores for neglecting his province, or a spy ordered to recite poetry to the court's pet baboons. The pharaoh's creativity is boundless, each decree a testament to his ingenuity, blending justice with divine theater. You notice a small altar beside the throne, piled with offerings, bread, wine, and a single blue lotus. A priest mutters a prayer to Ra, ensuring the decree aligns with cosmic order. It's that Ma'at feather again, always lurking, tying this gilded hall to the dusty courtroom you started in. The noble bows, his kohl-lined eyes darting, probably calculating how to spin this at the next banquet. You can't help but admire the pharaoh's flair, turning a crime into a story that'll echo through the palace for years. The crowd's murmurs soften, blending with the faint clink of the priest's sistrum, and you feel your eyelids droop, the hall's grandeur fading into a dreamy haze. As the noble shuffles out, the pharaoh leans back, his fan-bearer waving a giant ostrich feather that looks suspiciously like Maat's. You chuckle, talk about on-the-nose symbolism. The hall's still buzzing, but it's a gentle hum now, like the Nile lapping at its banks. You lean against a column, its painted gods staring down, and let the moment sink in. The pharaoh's decree is law, but it's also art, a peculiar punishment that balances shame, labor, and a touch of divine comedy. You're ready for the next act, but for now, you're content to bask in the throne's golden glow, wondering what other royal whims await. You're stepping out of the pharaoh's gilded hall, the echo of royal decrees still ringing, and now you're weaving through a temple complex, its sandstone walls glowing in the late afternoon sun. The air's heavy with frankincense, and the faint chant of priests hums like a distant lullaby. You're here to uncover the strange disciplinary roles of temple priests, who dish out peculiar punishments with a holy twist. The Nile's a faint shimmer beyond the palm trees, but this is sacred ground, where justice feels like a divine side hustle. You brush past a lotus pillar, ready for a glimpse into Egypt's holiest courtroom. You enter a courtyard where a priest of Ammonius, his leopard skin cloak draped dramatically, is judging a case. The defendant, a temple worker, was caught napping during a sacred ritual. Basically, he dozed off while the gods were watching. The crowd, mostly temple staff and devotees, watches with a mix of awe and amusement. Mainstream history tells us priests often acted as judges in temple courts, especially for crimes against sacred spaces. Their authority came from their divine connection, making their punishments feel like direct orders from the gods. You feel the weight of their gaze like you're being sized up for skipping a hymn or two. The priest's voice is low, almost hypnotic, as he announces the penalty. The worker must spend a week tending the temple's sacred cats, cleaning their litter, and offering them milk at dawn. You stifle a giggle. Imagine this guy, bleary-eyed, scooping cat poop while the whole temple whispers about his nap. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some priestly punishments involved crafting offerings as atonement. A record from the 20th dynasty describes a scribe who spilled sacred oil and was ordered to mold 100 clay scarabs for Ammonius' shrine. You picture him kneading clay, muttering, "Never again," as his fingers cramp. Historians still debate whether these tasks were intended for spiritual cleansing or were merely the priest's means of maintaining the temple's operation on free labor. You settle onto a stone bench, the surface cool despite the heat, and watch the worker nod, his face a mix of relief and dread. The punishment's light but pointed. Cats were divine in Egypt, and tending them is both honor and hassle. You remember that fisherman rowing his shame across the Nile. This feels softer, but the public angle's the same. The courtyard's alive with small details. A breeze rustling palm fronds, a novice priest tripping over his robe, the faint meow of a sacred cat lounging nearby. It's like an ASMR paradise, and you feel your shoulders relax, caught in the temple's serene rhythm. The priest gestures to a small altar, where a bronze statue of Maat gleams, her feather ever present. He explains how the worker's task restores balance, keeping Ammonius' favor. You're starting to see the pattern. Every punishment, from royal decrees to priestly verdicts, circles back to that cosmic feather you first saw in the courtroom. The crowd murmurs approval, some tossing lotus petals toward the altar, their scent mingling with the incense. You imagine other priestly punishments. Maybe a gossip forced to scrub temple floors while chanting hymns, or a thief weaving linen for the gods' statues. Each penalty feels like a ritual, blending shame with devotion. A younger priest, barely hiding a smirk, hands the worker a clay bowl for the cat's milk. You chuckle, Bet he's enjoying this a bit too much. The scene has that Egyptian flair. Serious yet absurd, sacred yet human. You spot a scribe, of course, scratching the verdict onto papyrus, his pen moving with that familiar flick. You grin, wondering if he's slipping in a jab, maybe calling the worker snoozer of sacred rites. Those scribes are the thread tying this whole justice system together, from dusty courtrooms to temple courtyards. You lean back, the bench's edge digging in, and let the moment sink in, the chants, the cats, the priest's calm authority. The sun's dipping, casting long shadows across the courtyard, and the worker shuffles off to start his cat-tending duties. A sacred feline brushes past your leg, its eyes glinting like it knows your secrets. You give it a mental salute. Those cats are Egypt's furry judges. The priest's chant fades, blending with the wind, and you feel a dreamy haze settle over you. This temple's a world of its own, where peculiar punishments keep the gods happy and the people in line. You're hooked, ready for the next twist, but for now, you're content to linger in the courtyard's glow, the scent of lotus pulling you deeper into Egypt's strange justice. You're leaving the temple's incense-soaked courtyard behind, the sacred cat's meows fading as you weave through narrow alleys toward the bustling marketplace. The air's alive with the tang of fresh fish, roasted nuts, and the sharp scent of piled spices, while merchants' shouts mix with the clatter of carts. You're here to navigate the chaos of bizarre crimes and their peculiar punishments, where justice takes on a distinctly public flavor. The Nile's a distant hum, but the market's pulse is its river, flowing with deals and disputes. You dodge a runaway goat, ready to see how Egypt's courts handle the marketplace's mischief. The sensory details of the market, from the pungent spices to the lively shouts, envelop you in the scene. You pause at a stall piled with pomegranates, where a young trader is in trouble for using rigged scales to shortchange customers. A crowd's gathered, some heckling, others munching on bread like it's a street show. You, among the crowd, are not just a spectator but an active participant in this unique justice system, witnessing the local judge, a wiry man with a no-nonsense stare, stand under a linen canopy, his voice cutting through the din. You are part of the decision-making process, and your presence influences the outcome. Mainstream history tells us marketplaces were hotbeds for petty crimes, false weights, stolen goods, even brawls over prime stall spots. Egyptian courts, often set up right in the bazaar, handled these cases swiftly, with punishments designed to hit traders where it hurt, their wallets and reputations. The judge's verdict lands. The trader must give away his entire stock of pomegranates to passers-by, then wear a wooden yoke painted with cheater for 2 days. You snort. Imagine this guy, neck sore, handing out free fruit while the market roars with laughter. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some market punishments involve donating goods to people experiencing poverty. A papyrus from the New Kingdom describes a fishmonger who watered down his stock and was ordered to gift a basket of perch to a widow's household. You picture him grumbling, scaling fish for charity while his profits sank. Historians still debate whether these penalties aim to restore community trust or merely maintain the market's market stability. You lean against a mud brick wall, the surface gritty, and watch the trader start his giveaway. Kids swarm, grabbing pomegranates, their juice staining their chins red. The yoke's clunky, painted with bright hieroglyphs, and you can tell it's more humiliating than heavy. It's like that signboard punishment from the village square, but with a market twist. Public, messy, and impossible to ignore. The crowd's loving it, some tossing good-natured jabs, others nodding like they've been burned by bad scales. 2. You feel the market's rhythm, shouts, laughter, the clink of copper debon, lulling you into a dreamy haze, like the bazaar's one big, chaotic bedtime story. A priest of Thoth, the wisdom god, steps up, sprinkling barley grains to bless the verdict. This act is a nod to Ma'at's feather, the symbol of justice and balance you first saw in the courtroom. The priest's presence in the marketplace is not just ceremonial. It signifies the divine oversight and the importance of maintaining balance in the marketplace. The trader's face is flushed, but he's keeping it together, tossing fruit with forced cheer. You imagine other market punishments. Maybe a spice seller forced to sweep the bazaar's dust for overcharging, or a weaver stitching free cloaks after selling shoddy cloth. Each penalty is a mini-drama, turning the market into Egypt's liveliest courtroom. You spot a scribe perched on a crate, scribbling the scene on papyrus. You grin, betting he's adding a zinger, maybe calling the trader pomegranate philanthropist. The judge's voice softens as he explains how the punishment rights the market's wrongs, his words blending with the hum of bartering. The weight of his responsibility strikes you. Unlike the pharaoh's lofty decrees, this is justice at ground level, where everyone knows the trader's name. A woman nearby, her basket overflowing with free fruit, offers the trader a sympathetic smile, a reminder that Egypt's not all harsh. You wander closer, the scent of cumin tickling your nose, and notice the trader's yoke has a small carving of Thoth's ibis head. This ties his shame to divine oversight, a reminder that justice in the marketplace is not just about punishment but also about maintaining the balance of Ma'at. It's pure Egypt, practical, symbolic, and a little absurd. The sun's dipping, casting golden light across the stalls, and the crowd starts to thin, lugging their hauls home. The trader's pile of pomegranates is nearly gone, his yoke creaking as he shifts. You lean back, the wall's warmth seeping into you, and let the market's fading bustle wash over. The scribe rolls up his papyrus, the priest scatters one last handful of barley, and you feel that Ma'at balance settling in. This bazaar's a world of its own, where peculiar punishments keep the scales, literal and cosmic, steady. As the market winds down, the air is filled with the sounds of haggling, the smell of spices, and the sight of the last customers making their purchases. You're ready for the next act, but for now, you're content to linger in the market's glow, the taste of dust and justice lingering on your tongue. You're slipping away from the marketplace's spicy chaos, the trader's pomegranate giveaway now just a sticky memory, and stepping into a quieter corner of the village. The air's softer here, carrying the scent of baked bread and the faint bleat of goats from nearby pens. You're weaving through mud brick homes, their flat roofs strung with drying laundry, to mediate family feuds and their curious penalties. This isn't the grand courtroom or bustling bazaar. It's Egypt's domestic heart, where justice gets personal and punishments are as peculiar as a family argument over who ate the last date. You pause by a flickering oil lamp, ready to dive into these household dramas. You're ushered into a courtyard, where a family's gathered around a low table, their faces tense. The issue: a young man, let's call him Anpu, borrowed his sister's dowry jewelry to impress a merchant's daughter. The local elder, a woman with a voice like warm honey, is meditating. Mainstream history tells us family disputes in ancient Egypt often went to village elders or low-level courts, especially over property or inheritance. These cases prioritized harmony over harshness, with punishments designed to mend bonds rather than break them. You feel the courtyard's intimacy like you're eavesdropping on a family group chat gone wrong. The elder's verdict is simple but clever. Anpu must craft a new set of clay beads for his sister, painted with her favorite lotus design, and publicly apologize at the next village feast. You can't help but chuckle at the thought of Anpu, fingers caked in clay, trying to match his sister's artsy standards while the whole village eagerly awaits his speech. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some family punishments involved symbolic chores. A papyrus from Deir el-Medina describes a brother who stole his sibling's grain and was ordered to bake bread for the family for a month, serving it with a bow. You can almost hear him grumbling, "This is why I live alone," as he kneads the dough. Historians still debate whether these penalties were intended to teach humility or maintain peace by avoiding public disputes. You find a comfortable spot on a reed mat, the cool ground beneath you, and watch Anpu nod, his ears redder than the sunset. His sister, arms crossed, looks unimpressed but softens when the elder adds that Anpu must also gift her a pet duck. The crowd, mostly neighbors and cousins, laughs, and you join in, imagining the duck waddling through their house, quacking during arguments. It's like that signboard punishment from the square or the fisherman's Nile row. Public enough to sting, private sufficient to heal. The elder's voice weaves through the scene, steady and soothing, explaining how the beads and apology will restore Ma'at's balance. You feel your eyelids droop, the courtyard's calm pulling you into a gentle haze. The family's tension eases, their voices softening as they discuss the feast. You notice small details: a clay oven glowing in the corner, a toddler chewing on a fig, the elder's silver amulet glinting with Ma'at's feather. That feather again ties this cozy dispute to the courtroom's divine scales. You imagine other family punishments. Maybe a mother forced to weave her son's torn tunic after a prank, or a cousin planting herbs for the household he gossiped about. Each penalty's a stitch in the family's fabric, quirky but purposeful. A scribe, perched on a stool, scribbles the verdict, his pen flicking with that familiar sass. His role is crucial in documenting the resolution and ensuring its enforcement. You grin, betting he's dubbing Anpu Jewelry Joyrider. The elder calls for a shared cup of barley beer, a ritual to seal the resolution. This act symbolizes the restoration of harmony and the forgiveness of the offense. You lean back, the mat crinkling, and watch the family pass the cup, their laughter breaking the silence. It's a reminder that Egypt's justice, even in its smallest moments, is about connection between people, gods, and that ever-present feather. You wonder what other domestic penalties are out there. Maybe a father carving a toy boat for a neglected child, or siblings tending a shared garden after a feud. The courtyard's glow, lit by the lamp's flicker, feels like a hug, and you're caught in its warmth, the elder's voice a soft drone. As the family disperses, Anpu's sister smirks, probably plotting her lotus bead design. The elder pats her shoulder, her smile saying, "He'll learn." You take a deep breath, the air now cool with the evening, and let the scene settle. The scribe rolls his papyrus, the duck quacks from somewhere nearby, and you feel Ma'at's balance in every detail. This courtyard is a microcosm of Egypt's quirky justice, where punishments mend what's broken with a touch of humor. You're ready for the next chapter, but for now, you're content to linger in the lamplight, the taste of barley and family lingering on your tongue. You're stepping out of the cozy courtyard, the family's laughter and quacking duck fading as you head toward the city's edge, where the Nile's banks widen and foreign traders gather. The air's sharp with the scent of damp reeds and exotic spices, and the chatter of unfamiliar tongues fills your ears. You're here to watch outsiders, merchants, nomads, maybe a stray diplomat, face Egypt's quirky justice, their foreign ways clashing with local rules. The sun's high, glinting off the river, and you feel like a guest at a cultural showdown, ready to see what peculiar punishments await those who don't know Ma'at's feather by heart. You settle near a makeshift court under a sycamore tree, its shade a relief from the heat. The defendant is a Nubian trader accused of smuggling untaxed myrrh past the river checkpoint. His colorful robes stand out against the Egyptian's white linen, and his nervous grin says he's not sure how deep he's in. Mainstream history tells us foreigners in ancient Egypt, whether from Nubia, the Levant, or beyond, faced the same legal system as locals. Still, their punishments often had an extra layer of cultural flex. Courts used these cases to show Egypt's dominance, blending justice with a welcome to our rules vibe. You feel the crowd's curiosity, their eyes sizing up this outsider like he's a puzzle. The judge, a local official with a scarab amulet, delivers the verdict. The trader must donate half his myrrh to the temple of Isis, then carry a clay tablet inscribed with "smuggler" across the market for a day. You snicker, imagine this guy, robes flapping, lugging a sign while trying to haggle. It's like that pomegranate trader's yoke, but with a cross-cultural twist. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some foreign punishments involved learning Egyptian customs. A record from the 18th dynasty mentions a Hittite merchant who dodged taxes and was forced to memorize a hymn to Ra, reciting it daily to a priest. You picture him stumbling over the words, his accent tripping on hieroglyphs. Historians still debate whether these penalties were intended to promote assimilation or to demonstrate Egypt's superiority. You lean against the sycamore, its bark rough, and watch the traitor accept his tablet. His grin now a grimace. The crowd's mixed. Some jeer, others nod like they respect his hustle. The punishment's clever. It hits his profits and his pride while reminding everyone that Egypt's gods don't play favorites. You remember Anpu's bead-crafting penalty. This feels bigger, like the Nile itself is watching. The judge's voice, smooth and deliberate, explains how the myrrh offering honors Isis, keeping Ma'at's balance. It's hypnotic, blending with the river's lap and the crowd's murmurs. And you feel your eyelids droop, caught in the scene's gentle rhythm. A priestess of Isis steps forward, her linen dress shimmering, and scatters lotus petals over the tablet, blessing the verdict. You're struck by the theater. Egypt's justice loves its props, from courtroom feathers to market yokes. You imagine other foreign punishments. Maybe a Libyan herder shearing temple sheep after grazing on sacred land, or a Syrian sailor rowing priests up the Nile for dodging port fees. Each penalty is a lesson, quirky yet firm, in Egypt's way of life. A scribe's here, of course, perched on a rock, his papyrus curling in the breeze. You grin, betting he's scribbling something snarky, maybe mischief man, for the archives. The trader starts his market trek, the tablet heavy on his shoulder, and you notice a few locals offering him water, a small kindness that softens the sting. It's a reminder that Egypt's justice, even for outsiders, isn't all harsh. There's room for mercy, or at least a drink of water. The crowd thins, some heading back to their boats, others gossiping about the following case. You wander closer to the Nile, the reeds brushing your legs, and let the scene sink in. The trader's silhouette fades into the market's dust, his punishment a story that'll travel as far as his myrrh once did. The priestess's chant lingers, a soft hum that pulls you deeper into Egypt's world. You feel that Ma'at feather again, tying this riverbank court to every verdict you've seen, from the pharaoh's hall to the family courtyard. The sun's warmth, the river's rhythm, the crowd's fading voices. It's like a lullaby, wrapping you in a dreamy haze. You're hooked on these peculiar punishments, each one a window into Egypt's soul. For now, you're content to linger by the Nile, the trader's tablet a distant speck, the scent of myrrh and justice lingering in the air, ready for whatever comes next. You're drifting away from the Nile's bustling banks, the Nubian trader's myrrh-scented shame now a fading murmur, and stepping into a dimly lit chamber within a temple complex. The air's cool, thick with the scent of beeswax and old papyrus, and the walls flicker with torchlight, casting shadows that dance like restless spirits. You're here to unravel mystical punishments tied to spells, where Egypt's justice takes a turn into the supernatural. The marketplace's chaos feels worlds away. This is a realm of whispered curses and divine retribution, where peculiar penalties carry the weight of magic. You brush past a carved ankh, ready to explore this eerie side of the law. You're in a side chamber of the Temple of Thoth, the ancient Egyptian god of wisdom, writing, and magic, where a priestess, her eyes lined with kohl, presides over a case. The accused is a scribe who tampered with a sacred text, swapping a hymn's words to favor his cousin's land claim. The room's hushed, the crowd, mostly priests and scribes, watching with wide eyes. Mainstream history tells us magic was woven into Egyptian law, especially for crimes against sacred knowledge or rituals. Spells and curses weren't just folklore. They were legal tools used to enforce justice when mortal penalties weren't enough. You feel a chill, like the gods are eavesdropping, their presence as real as the stone under your feet. The priestess's voice, soft yet commanding, announces the verdict. The scribe must inscribe a protective spell 100 times on papyrus, then wear a linen amulet inscribed with his crime for a month, warding off Thoth's wrath. The purpose of this punishment is not just to shame the scribe but to bind him to Thoth's will, forcing him to fix his mistake with sacred words. You smirk. Imagine him, neck draped in magical guilt, scribbling spells until his hand cramps. It's like Anpu's bead crafting penalty but with a spooky twist. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some magical punishments involved ritual cursing of the guilty. A papyrus from the late period describes a thief who was cursed to dream of scorpions unless he returned his stolen loot. You picture him tossing in bed, swearing to reform by sunrise. Historians still debate whether these curses were psychological ploys or genuine expressions of belief in divine magic. You settle onto a stone ledge, the cold seeping through your imaginary kilt, and watch the scribe accept his amulet, its linen scratched with tiny hieroglyphs. The crowd's tense, some clutching their amulets, as if the scribe's crime might jinx them too. The punishment's clever. It's not just about shame or labor but binding the scribe to Thoth's will, forcing him to fix his mistake with sacred words. You remember that fisherman rowing across the Nile. Same public vibe, but this feels heavier, like the air's humming with unseen power. The priestess lights a brazier, its smoke curling upward, and you think your eyelids droop, the chamber's rhythm lulling you into a dreamy trance. She chants a spell, her words blending with the crackle of flames, sealing the verdict with Thoth's blessing. The amulet's supposed to protect the scribe from worse curses, like, say, an eternity of paperwork in the afterlife. You chuckle, imagining him double-checking his spelling now. You imagine other mystical punishments. Maybe a gossip weaving a spell-soaked cloth to silence her tongue, or a vandal carving protective runes on a temple gate. Each penalty's a bridge between the mortal and divine, quirky yet unnerving. A scribe, yes, another one, sits cross-legged recording the scene, his pen flicking with that familiar sass. You grin, betting he's calling the accused him hustler in his notes. The crowd shifts, their linen robes rustling, and you notice a small altar with a statuette of Thoth, his ibis head gleaming. A single feather, Maat's, of course, rests beside it, tying this mystical chamber to every courtroom you've seen. The scribe's hands tremble as he starts his first spell, the papyrus crackling under his pen. You're struck by the intimacy of it all. Unlike the marketplace's noise, this is justice whispered in shadows, where magic makes the rules. The priestess's chant slows, her voice a soothing drone, and you lean back, the ledge's chill grounding you as the smoke swirls. The torchlight flickers, casting the scribe's shadow across the wall, his amulet swaying like a pendulum. You wonder how he'll sleep, knowing Thoth's watching. The crowd's murmurs fade, blending with the brazier's hiss, and you feel that Maat balance settle in, as steady as the chamber's stone. This temple's a world apart, where peculiar punishments weave magic into justice, leaving you both spooked and spellbound. You're ready for the next chapter, but for now, you're content to linger in the torchlit glow, the scent of wax and mystery wrapping you in Egypt's strange, sacred law. You're slipping out of the temple's smoky chamber, the priestess's chants fading like a half-remembered dream, and stepping into the moonlit desert, where the air's crisp and the stars burn bright. The city's hum is gone, replaced by the soft crunch of sand underfoot and the distant howl of a jackal. You're here to follow tomb robbers, those daring or foolish souls who've crossed Egypt's ultimate line and face the peculiar punishments reserved for their crimes. The Nile's a faint glimmer on the horizon. This is the realm of the dead, where justice carries an eternal weight. You pull your imaginary cloak tighter, ready to see what fate awaits these grave thieves. You reach a rocky outcrop near a necropolis, where a makeshift court's been set up under torchlight. The accused, a wiry man with dust-caked hands, stands before a vizier, his face pale as the limestone cliffs. He's caught pilfering amulets from a minor noble's tomb. The crowd, guards, priests, and a few grim-faced villagers, watches in silence. Mainstream history tells us tomb robbing was a capital offense in ancient Egypt, often punished harshly to protect the dead's journey to the afterlife. But for lesser thefts like this one, courts got creative, blending deterrence with divine appeasement. You feel the necropolis's eerie calm as if the tombs are listening. The vizier's voice, low and deliberate, delivers the verdict. The robber must return the amulets, then spend a month guarding the tomb he violated, sleeping beside it under the stars. You snicker, imagine him, shivering in the desert, jumping at every shadow, guarding the very grave he tried to loot. It's like that scribe's magical amulet, but with a ghostly twist. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some tomb-robbing punishments involved appeasing the dead. A papyrus from the 20th dynasty describes a thief forced to offer bread and beer to a tomb spirit daily, whispering apologies to avoid a curse. You picture him muttering, "Sorry, dead guy, here's your snack." Historians still debate whether these rituals were intended to achieve spiritual balance or merely to deter thieves. You settle on a flat rock, the cold biting through, and watch the robber nod, his eyes darting to the dark tombs. The punishment's brutal in its simplicity. No warm bed, no escape from the necropolis's ghosts. You remember the market trader's yoke. This is harsher, a solitary penance under Anubis's gaze. The crowd's quiet, their torches casting long shadows, and you feel a chill that's not just the desert night. The vizier explains how the penalty honors Osiris, Lord of the Dead, keeping Ma'at's feather steady. His voice is soothing, like a bedtime story for the afterlife, and you feel your shoulders relax, caught in the scene's haunting rhythm. A priest of Anubis, his jackal mask glinting, steps forward, sprinkling natron salt to purify the verdict. The ritual's a nod to the tomb's sanctity, and you're struck by its weight. Egypt's dead were as real as the living, their rest non-negotiable. You imagine other tomb-robbing punishments. Maybe a thief carving protective seals for a violated grave or another hauling stones to repair a plundered pyramid. Each penalty's a warning, etched into the desert itself. A scribe, bundled in a cloak, scribbles the verdict, his papyrus lit by a flickering torch. You grin, betting he's dubbing the robber amulet snatcher with a flourish. The robber is led to the tomb, a low mound with a sealed door, and you notice a guard handing him a thin blanket, mercy, or maybe just practicality. The crowd disperses, their torches bobbing into the night, leaving you with the vizier's fading words and the desert's vast silence. You wonder how the robber will sleep, knowing the tomb's owner might not be thrilled. The scene's hypnotic, the stars, the sand, the faint rustle of wind, like an ASMR track for the afterlife. You lean back, the rocks chill grounding you, and let the necropolis's stillness wash over. The priest's salt scatters one last time, its grains catching the moonlight, and you feel that Ma'at balance again, tying this desolate court to every verdict you've seen. Tomb robbing is no minor crime, and Egypt's justice, even in this remote area, is relentless yet quirky, weaving fear and faith into every penalty. You're hooked, ready for the next twist, but for now, you're content to linger in the desert's glow. The robber's lonely vigil a stark reminder of Egypt's sacred law. The stars seem to watch, and the scent of dust and justice lingers, pulling you deeper into this ancient world. You're leaving the necropolis's eerie silence behind, the tomb robber's lonely vigil fading into the desert night, and marching toward a military outpost on the city's edge. The air's warm, tinged with the scent of leather and smoldering campfires, and the rhythmic thud of sandals on packed earth fills your ears. You're here to march with soldiers facing odd disciplines, where Egypt's military justice dishes out peculiar punishments to keep its warriors in line. The Nile, a faint shimmer in the distance, is a reminder of the life-giving force that sustains this world of order and sweat. Ma'at's feather, a symbol of truth and justice in ancient Egyptian culture, is as sacred as the shields these soldiers carry. Here, mistakes earn you more than a stern lecture. You adjust your imaginary helmet, ready to see what quirky penalties await. As you approach the outpost, a mud brick fort with watchtowers casting long shadows, you can feel the tension in the air. A group of soldiers, their bronze spears glinting, gathers around a captain judging a young recruit. He's accused of losing his shield during a training drill. A big no-no in a culture where shields were as sacred as Ma'at's feather. The crowd, mostly fellow recruits and grizzled veterans, watches with smirks. The tension at the outpost is palpable, like a bowstring ready to snap, as everyone awaits the captain's verdict. The captain, his voice gravelly yet calm, announces the verdict. The recruit must carve a new wooden shield, inscribe it with careless, and carry it in drills for a month. You chuckle. Imagine him, arms aching, lugging a shame shield while his squad snickers. It's like that tomb robber's desert vigil, but with more sweat and less spookiness. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some military punishments doubled as camp chores. A papyrus from the 19th dynasty describes a soldier who deserted his post and was ordered to dig latrines for a week, chanting hymns to Sekhmet, the goddess of war, with each shovel. You picture him muttering, "Never running off again," as flies buzz. Historians still debate whether these penalties aim to build character or maintain camp discipline. You settle on a wooden bench, its surface splintery, and watch the recruit nod, his face redder than the desert sunset. The punishment's smart. It's not just about shame. It forces him to fix his mistake, literally crafting his redemption. This is more than just a penalty. It's a lesson in character development. The captain explains how the shield restores the unit's honor, his words blending with the crackle of a nearby fire. It's soothing, like a campfire tale, and you feel your eyelids droop, caught in the outpost's steady rhythm. Thudding feet, clinking gear, low chuckles. A priest of Horus, a falcon-headed war god, steps up, sprinkling barley to bless the verdict. His presence ties this dusty fort to the courtroom's divine scales, with Ma'at's feather always lurking. You imagine other military punishments. Maybe a scout polishing the captain's chariot after missing a signal, or a brawler weaving rope for the army's tents. Each penalty's a lesson, quirky yet brutal, in Egypt's warrior code. A scribe, perched on a crate, scribbles the verdict on his papyrus, his work lit by the firelight. His role is crucial, as he ensures that every detail of the punishment is recorded accurately. You grin, betting he's calling the recruit shield shedder with a smirk, just like that sassy courtroom scribe you've come to love. The recruit's led to a workshop, where a carpenter hands him a block of acacia wood and a blunt chisel. The crowd disperses, some heading to their barracks, others tossing jabs at the recruit's carving skills. You wander closer, the fire's warmth brushing your skin, and notice a veteran soldier offering the kid a quick carving tip, tough love with a side of camaraderie. The recruit's carving skills are not the best, but he's determined to do his best. It's Egypt's justice at work, firm but human, even in a fort. You wonder how the recruit will fare, his shame shield a constant reminder to check his gear. The scene's hypnotic, the fires crackle, the captain's fading voice, the distant hoot of an owl like an ASMR track for soldiers. You lean against a mud brick wall, its surface cool, and let the outpost's rhythm sink in. The recruit's chisel scrapes, a soft counterpoint to the night's quiet. You feel that Ma'at balance again, tying this military court to every verdict you've seen, from Pharaoh's hall to desert tombs. Egypt's military justice is relentless but clever, weaving discipline and divine order into every penalty. You're hooked, ready for the final act, but for now, you're content to linger in the firelight, the scent of leather and justice lingering. The recruit's carving a steady beat in this ancient world. As you step away from the military outpost, the recruit's chisel scrapes fade into the night, and you find yourself drawn to the heart of the city, where the courthouse's stone walls loom under a sky streaked with dawn's first light. The air's cool, carrying the scent of fresh papyrus and the Nile's faint musk. You're here to unravel the mysteries of Egypt's justice as the courts close, tying together the peculiar punishments you've witnessed, from courtroom scribes to the unique practice of desert tombs. These tombs, often used as a form of punishment, were a stark reminder of the consequences of violating Maat's principles. This is the final act, a moment filled with wonder to soak in the profound weight of Maat's feather. You pause by a lotus pool, ready to let Egypt's quirky law settle into your bones. You're back in that first courtroom, but it's calmer now, the crowd thinner, the torches burning low. A final case wraps. A baker accused of skimping on sesame in his bread. The judge, his wig slightly askew, delivers the verdict. The baker must bake 100 loaves for the Temple of Ptah, each stamped with a sesame seed apology. You smile. Imagine him kneading dough, muttering about sesame costs, his punishment as wholesome as his bread. Mainstream history tells us Egyptian courts aim to restore harmony, not just punish. From the old kingdom to the new, verdicts like this one wove community, gods, and justice into a single thread. You feel the courtroom's weight like it's holding Egypt's soul. The baker's sentence echoes every penalty you've seen, public, creative, tied to Maat. It's like the traitor's pomegranate giveaway or the soldier's shame shield, but softer, a gentle nudge back to balance. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some final verdicts included offerings to local deities. A papyrus from Memphis mentions a merchant who cheated on weights and was required to gift a bronze scale to Ptah's shrine, which was polished daily for a month. You picture him buffing metal, grumbling, "Scales are overrated." Historians still argue whether these temple gifts were about devotion or just boosting the priests' budgets. But you see the crowd nod, satisfied, their faith in Maat unshaken. You settle on a reed mat, the floor cool, and watch the baker bow, his relief palpable. The scribe, your favorite sassy one, scribbles the verdict, his pen flicking with a smirk. You bet he's calling the baker sesame stinge in his notes. A final jab for the archives. The courtroom's rhythm is slow now, the judge's voice a soothing drone, blending with the rustle of papyrus and the distant call of a bird. It's like the Nile's lullaby, pulling you into a dreamy haze. You remember every scene. The fisherman's Nile row, the noble's obelisk polish, the scribe's magical amulet. Each a piece of Egypt's justice puzzle, quirky yet profound. A priest of Maat steps forward, placing a single ostrich feather on an altar, its white plume catching the dawn's glow. The gesture seals the court's work, a nod to that feather you first saw, weighing every verdict. You imagine other closing punishments. Maybe a gossip weaving a temple banner or a thief planting reeds by the Nile. Each penalty's a story, preserving Egypt's order. The crowd disperses, their sandals scuffing, and you lean back, the mat crinkling, letting the moment sink in. The baker's off to his ovens, the scribe rolls his papyrus, and you feel Maat's balance settle, as steady as the stone walls around you. There's a profound sense of fulfillment in the air, a contentment that comes from witnessing justice served, leaving you at peace. The light softens, the courtroom empties, and you're left by the lotus pool, its petals swaying in the breeze. The city's waking, merchants call, boats creak on the Nile, but here, it's just you, the waters ripple, and the echo of Egypt's justice. Those peculiar punishments, from cat tending to spell scribing, weren't just quirks. They were Egypt's heartbeat, keeping gods and people in harmony. You feel the desert's warmth fade, the air growing lighter, like a blanket slipping off. The feather's still there, in your mind's eye, floating on Maat's scale, whispering balance. You're not just an observer. You're a part of this ancient system of justice, feeling the connection to it deep in your bones. Let the Nile's hum carry you now, its rhythm a gentle wave, easing you toward dreams. Close your eyes, breathe slowly, and drift. Egypt's stories will wait for you.